think
I like the
everyone's,
background.
yeah, it's festive, right? So yeah, I'm Dan Friedenberg. This is Figure It Out, and I'm joined today with Benjamin Vabner. How you doing today, Benjamin?
Not bad in yourself?
Yeah, I can't complain. I can't complain. You know, it's getting a little bit late in the day, ready to about call it quits. But we had a couple things to go through, and I'm going to start at the with a lily pad of going to the "Who are you helping?" Format here to start our conversation. Know that we got some other things that we want to talk about specifically, but let's start there. So, Benjamin, can you introduce yourself for the audience, please?
Sure. My name is Benjamin Vabner, and I'm age 36. Right now I'm working in the medical field.
Okay, great. So the first question we normally ask is, who are you helping professionally? So I know in the medical field there are some restrictions on what you can say, but what can you
So
describe?
basically, here's what I do. I'm officially a doctor's secretary. I'm officially secretary and operator for a medical group.
Okay. So like a personal assistant for scheduling and things like
Yep,
that. Okay, and
that's
follow-ups.
exactly it.
Okay, great. All right, and so who do you wish you could help more is the next question, and it really what I'm trying to get at more is anybody who is like a secondary uh, benefactor of when somebody works with you professionally, like who else are they helping? And to give you some background for the question, it's like some people, you know, they have a charity or something like that that they're giving to. I've got some other friends who have a special needs child, and so they need to make sure they get the passive wealth so that special needs child is taken care of. But let's just see what your answer is as far as like in your life, who do you wish you could help more?
Definitely people on the spectrum. I want to be able to eventually inspire them, much more as a story.
So you're really looking for you think awareness, generating awareness is one of the best uses of your time aside from like your professional work. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's really great. And so so how can people help you?
Well, one of the things would be first, definitely tuning into my podcast, which is going to be launching in January.
Okay.
That's definitely one good place to start.
Okay, awesome. And that's January 2022.
Yep.
Okay, and how do they reach you? We met through LinkedIn and a LinkedIn
LinkedIn
group
is
with
going to
Jenny.
definitely be the first place, but I also have Instagram.
Okay, all right, and just search through your name, Benjamin Vabner, like we've got there in the description. So that's good. So did you know that when people subscribe to my channel, that helps me?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Well, it does, and it's free too. So do you have any good reasons for the audience of why they should subscribe to this channel?
Because you get to learn about how real estate is a scam, courtesy of you, of course.
Uh-huh.
They get to learn about funneling from you, which
hmm
definitely looks like it can be in the right audience situation a lot of fun.
Yep, definitely. All right, that's fantastic.
Funneling and real estate is definitely a reason I was drawn to it. Real estate was really the first one.
Right. So, well, I guess the next thing we can do is we can start talking about the Dan Does Deals part of that. So if I go like this, ding,
Ding.
just like that. It's like magic. Okay. So as far as the Dan Does Deals side, what we first ask is we go through the 5 different motivations as far as why the investor wants part of their next commercial property. So those 5 reasons are like the first one is that if you're independently wealthy and your wealth is how you make money, then really you're trying to we call it protect your purchasing power. Okay. The second reason is my one, which is trading your time for wealth. Okay. So you could make a big salary from, wages or whatever. Or if you work directly in the business, then you're getting equity for your work. So that's what I'm up to with commercial. The next reason is that you're fast tracking your retirement. So you're already starting, but instead of working with a bank, you're getting educated and finding another way. But the next reason is that you're just very ambitious. And the last one is that there's a specific group of people, or maybe it's the environment or animals or something like that they want to help. So out of those 5 motivations, did anything sound like it described you or?
Well, for me, especially because I'm just on a regular salary, first one would definitely be to build toward a retirement for sure. That's definitely one reason I'm drawn to this. Mm-hmm. Environment is reason number 2. Big one for me.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. So
I don't have. I wish I had generational wealth, but I don't.
Oh yeah. I definitely understand what you mean. It's the next part. The next part that I go through is the 6 different roles in a commercial deal, and that way anybody who's new to commercial real estate, at least they can communicate effectively. So let's find out and let's go through each of them. So the first one is a repositioner. Now what a repositioner does is they look through a whole bunch of different properties and they say, hey, which ones have upside? Which one can we make more money off of than regular properties? And the 2 ways that they can get that upside, well, first they have to do the math, and that's called underwriting. So they do the math, and it's called underwriting. And the 2 ways
we call that underwriting over here, which I think you already knew.
Right. Yeah. So underwriting. Yeah. So that's underwriting the deal. Is going through the rents and making sure the business makes sense from a financial perspective, in that they're not lying and things like that. But one way that you can get some upside is by making more efficient operations. So if you can find ways to cut costs, like money going down the drain, all that sort of stuff. That's one way to make the property make more money. Another way is to get a contractor team to make the apartment units or the units that you're renting out, make them worth more money. And so that way you get more rent. But if you're like me, then I'm from the internet. I'm not going to be the local. I need somebody who's near there so that they can oversee operations and they can oversee the contracting team, make sure they're actually doing things. And that's what most people think of in a commercial deal. But there's the money side too. So you have to go to the bank or get some capital raisers and say, hey, I need all this money to buy this asset. And they're going to say, okay, who's your sponsor? And a sponsor is somebody who's already in the business. And if you want to buy a 150 unit apartment complex, you have to have somebody who already owns a 150 unit apartment complex before you can get a loan. Okay, you have to have somebody. Yeah, they won't give you the loan. So that is, there are a couple other restrictions, which is that the sponsor has to put in a certain amount of liquidity, cash on hand. And then they also have to have a net worth, at least as much as the value of the loan. But those are the 6 different pieces there. And from what you understand about real estate and what I just described, what parts sound like something you'd be able to help out on?
What do you see would be the best one for me if you could make a suggestion?
Okay. So I think a local would be good, because that has to be, like somebody who can do what they're told to some degree, right? Well,
especially starting out.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So like helping out to, check out, like walk through units while there's a process called due diligence. Okay. And that's what happens is you basically sign the deal with somebody saying, okay, as long as all this stuff works out, then I agree to sell this property to you and blah, 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 blah. And there's a period of say 30 days or 45 days, something like that, where you can have inspectors come into the building and check things out. And then if, there's something wrong with that, then you might say, okay, no deal. Or you might say, it's like, this has like $500,000 worth of repairs that needs done. So you have to drop it by $500,000. So like that's the more complex side of it, right? But if you're the person who lives near the property, then they might just need you to come in with a phone and take pictures, and they'll tell you exactly what they need, like, unit 128, take some photos there. So that might be good. I
like that idea, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But the one thing that's kind of hidden in the die is that on the repositioner side, like, everybody has to find more deals. Unless you're an operator, then people will find you, but you have to find more deals if you want to, keep on.
So that's the researching aspect, right?
Right, exactly. So like if you get a property,
like research too.
Yeah, right, exactly. So and yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, as a repositioner, you have to make sure that the deal makes sense, right? So everybody has to do the math somewhat. So, but yeah, that's basically what I'd say about that. But as far as like geographic areas, if you're the local, whereabouts would you be open to cooperating, like around where you live, a few hour radius, or would it have to be even closer for you to want to be local?
If you're looking within New York City and Westchester County, then that's perfectly fine, because those are both areas that are convenient for me.
Okay, awesome.
I'm sure you know a lot of it. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the deals within my own area.
Yeah, it's I don't actually look too closely at New York, just because in my group of friends, a lot of people are looking for where it's more landlord friendly. But one of the things that is kind of glossed over in the die is that, like, I mentioned that capital raisers and banks are financiers, but the truth is there are also people who that's what they do, is they just find properties to get a piece of. And so like that's a completely another category. And at the end of the day, if you have people who are like that and they say, I'm looking for this sort of property, then the real estate business is just trying to find exactly what they're looking for, get it under contract, and say, yeah, sure, you can get this one, and just give me this little teeny tiny piece of it. And that's how they end up retiring in 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the whole picture as far as I've been able to see. So if you like that in the audience, if you thought that was some pretty wild stuff, then go ahead and comment and hit like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Because I think that was kind of neat, like being that terse and getting through that much of real estate in such a short conversation. I thought that was really cool. Didn't you?
I did also.
That's really, really awesome. Cool. So as far as ways to reach out to you, you already mentioned that LinkedIn is good for you, right?
Yeah.
This one. Okay, great. And so thank you very much for this. And, once again, to you in the audience, if you like really awesome stuff like this, please hit the subscribe button. And Benjamin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey everybody, I'm Dan Fredenberg, and surprise, here's part 2 of this Figure It Out interview with Benjamin Vabner. So that was a lot of fun doing that real estate related stuff and the who are you helping. How did you feel about that whole process?
I definitely enjoyed it, because real estate is definitely something that I take interest in.
And a moment ago, before I hit the record button again, I was mentioning that was not an easy conversation for people to handle. Like that's difficult for people to take all those moving pieces and get it in their head at that speed. And I thought you did very, very well.
Interestingly enough, that's what's unique about being on the spectrum. It's different for everybody. So In my case, I'm what you consider a high functioning autistic or someone with Asperger's syndrome. The type that you're probably used to are moderate to lower functioning autistics, meaning their development wasn't as, on the ball as I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what sets me apart from others, and what makes me unique is because I'm in the high functioning category. So my speech is developed, as you can tell. My focus is developed, especially where it's a topic that I'm passionate about, or, just happy to discuss, and it can be anything. However, where it differs is when having to learn something that might be complex or complicated in a working situation, where maybe it'll just need to be explained in another way.
Oh, right, right. Well, actually, that's the fun thing, because that, like, most people wouldn't know that. But see, education, like being an educator, it's its own independent skill. And I'm saying it's an independent skill because no matter what you're good at, that doesn't mean you're good at teaching it.
No, of course not.
Right. And so I run into that all the time because there's a power difference, right? Like when the manager is saying something bad to the supervisor or, the entry level person, because of the power difference, you can't really tell, like what's going on very accurately, I think, like when you're being like reprimanded or something like that. But as far as one thing I want to let the audience know about is I wanted to get in deeper with Benjamin about being on the spectrum, autism in general. And the other thing that you can learn from it, you and the audience, is I'm known in this channel for finding out what's controversial and finding out how to walk that line and go further than most people think, but still getting away with it. Okay, so that's kind of
you do a good job, and that's what makes you unique with it.
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying it because it's like, well, I'm interested in the data anyway, and the cancel culture thing is such a buzzword right now, right? On both sides, I think.
You mean we can respectfully agree to disagree is what they refer to as cancel culture?
Well, it'd be the opposite of it, right?
I know what cancel culture is.
Yeah,
that was
right.
Blatant sarcasm. Yeah, just because I have a difference of opinion with someone doesn't mean I should go attack them for it.
Right. It doesn't make us enemies at all. But so one of the things that's wonderful about me being a teacher, because I lived in Taiwan for 15 years, is that have you heard the difference? Have you heard the terms ESL and EFL? In referring to
English as the second language is ESL. The other one, not as much.
It's English as a foreign language.
Ah, okay.
Right. And so the distinction is that if you're teaching EFL, that means they're not even familiar with the sounds. Okay. Like they don't hear it on TV. They don't hear it in movies. They don't have anybody in their family who speaks English. It's utterly foreign to them. Okay. And so because I've had that experience of teaching with these kids who don't speak English at all, it taught me like what's just being human and what is the teacher saying, you make me uncomfortable, so I need a name for you and your problems. And when the reality is, if the teacher was that good, they'd know other ways to explain it where you'd be like, yeah, I got it. It's, that's fine, right? Like sometimes it has to do with leading people's attention, but other times it's just finding another way to phrase it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's really great. So what I'm trying to show in this conversation then with Benjamin is also how do you discuss what many people would interpret to be a tough conversation, like walking on eggshells or something like that.
It's never been easy, actually, to try to explain this to people because the ones who will not understand it, it doesn't affect them in their direct family or they don't have a friend or a cousin with the challenges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's not an easy way to explain it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I just felt it was better to try to just say, look, the difference is I may not learn the same way that you do, or there may be other things that I'm interested in. Or you could just go to, or I could just go use celebrity, there are all the top tech CEOs. What do you think they have in common?
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs was on the spectrum. Elon Musk was on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
The current American president right now, Joe Biden, has a stutter. He's also been diagnosed on the spectrum. There's another one. Jobs, Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. There's another one.
Okay,
Jeff Bezos.
Right. So what are some hallmarks as far as you're concerned of autism? Like are you able to spot it better in other people? Or
now at this age, I think I have a little easier time being able to see it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Or at least being able to understand it if someone is diagnosed or undiagnosed. Right.
Okay, that makes sense. And as far as you mentioned entertainment. There's the movie Rain Man that was great in my generation, and he was supposed to be
A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe.
A Beautiful Mind. That's another one, and I want to get to that separately. But the one Rain Man, that was a savant. And so is that actually a term that is used still as far as particular cases of autism?
I would sometimes, yes.
Okay. All right. And so what are some hallmarks of savants? I can repeat what was in the movie, but
I'd have to go back and watch that movie because it's been such a long time since I saw it.
Okay, so I can give you an example. In a diner, a waitress turns around, bumps into him, and dumps a bunch of toothpicks. And he goes 82, 82, 82, 246 toothpicks, definitely 246 toothpicks. And then, like Tom Cruise is like, oh, wow. How many toothpicks are in the box? And it says 250. Oh, but there's 4 left. So that's how the scene goes. So it basically means that, there are 2 hints that I took from that little clip. One of them is that it means that they've learned, this particular savant has learned to recognize geometry. And they found it's like, okay, 82 is a good number to count by. Some people count by 2s or 4s or 6s or whatever, or like sometimes I'll go like 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, and then I'll do the multiplication out that way. But they were implying that this savant was counting in 82s, these toothpicks. So it just took them seconds to count to 246, which is that's not really conceivable for. What do you want? Is it neurotypical? Is that the term that?
Yes, I would say the difference between neurotypical and autistic. Neurotypical was supposed to be normal.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's not very descriptive, is it?
Nope.
That's funny. So actually I should back up, and before I talk about some other flags that are nameables for autism, I want to talk about something that prepares it as well. And this is a tough one. Okay. This is one that I don't think many people would have the courage to ask you, but are you familiar with eugenics as an idea?
I've read about it.
Okay, so basically it's playing God. It's basically assuming that you understand genetics better than, random chance, and then basically saying okay, well, no, we're going to have less of these and we're going to have more of these. And it's an atrocious practice and idea. And it's a tough one to kill in a debate. So in that idea, it'd be like if they created a system where if you're not neurotypical, eugenics would be to sterilize people so they couldn't have babies. So like, have you ever heard of that? Because it's
I've heard
happening.
this was the entire reason that Planned Parenthood gets a lot of hatred over in this country because of that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because the founder of Planned Parenthood from the New York area was supposedly supportive of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. So,
Oh, it is.
yeah,
Unfortunately, though, if you say you're for or against, if you say you're for Planned Parenthood, which in some cases there are other services that Planned Parenthood offers, you still get, kind of pigeonholed and hated for it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's actually why I'd want to avoid the subject, is because abortion is like,
I
sure,
know abortion is a very touchy subject,
sure,
but it's still also something that eventually there can be common ground of. For example, as I've said before,
medical emergencies is the
yes,
biggest one.
medical emergencies. I don't agree with literally ending a life, but there are circumstances where, it might, there are circumstances where it has to be done.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
can't
right.
just take something away because you don't like it.
Right, right. And one of the things I try to do is I try to understand anything that is terrible. I try to understand it, and or at least find what is underrepresented. And the only side that I haven't heard anybody talk about is, like, who would want to be one of those doctors? Like, that's not a fun thing to do.
No, most doctors don't even want to do that themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So like,
A doctor
it's,
never wants to end a life, but
yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes there isn't an option.
Well, sure. I think doctors in general, it's you see a lot of death. To become a doctor, you got to see a lot of death, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and so that's why there's a threat of them losing, their humanity in that. They don't see it as much of a tragedy. But anyway, the reason why I was bringing up the eugenics thing is because that's the number one reason I can think of why, if I knew a way to identify myself, I wouldn't want to say it. Okay, like, if there's a
No,
way.
I don't blame you.
Right, right. So like, I guess you just have to look to Jews under Nazism as an example of, like, you don't want to name any features that would tip you off as being next for the trains, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so with that in mind, are you comfortable with, like, because I'm telling you, when it comes to being on the spectrum, I don't really know how to spot people who are on the spectrum. Are there any
I
traits?
would understand actually
Yeah.
because it's not easy for you.
Uh-huh. Okay. But is it easy for you? Is it like, because, oh, actually, there's a great example. So, I'm a musician, and so I don't need to listen to very much of somebody's music to find out how good of a musician they are. So it's just very, very fast for me. So is it like, well, I guess if there are ways that you can spot other people on the spectrum, I guess that
I
is.
think it's basically, I think how I would probably answer that would be it depends. With some people, it's easy and detectable, and other people, it is.
Oh, okay. Huh.
It's different person to person.
Okay. Then the next thing I want to talk about, I mentioned the savants. As far as, like, superpowers, though, like, I did see once. I was going through Reddit or something like that, and I found one thread where it was like, I don't know, like maybe 12 different people who were on the spectrum commented all in a row, and of course, everybody's human, so you see the full range of different remarks. But I think one of them did refer to it as a superpower, and I'm just curious of what superpowers there are. What ones are you aware of?
For people on the spectrum,
Yes.
uh, it it depends on their interests. Like for me, I have a wide variety of interests. Some like comic books, others love sports. I particularly like sports and, a wide range of topics. I don't just focus on one.
Okay.
Some, you know, others are into technology, some can be into music, that kind of stuff. Everyone's interests are different. I mean, the movie you had me watch, he like that one liked Rubik's cubes.
Right, right.
And he was laser focused with it too.
Right, right, exactly. And so one thing they kept on mentioning in that movie, and that was I think it was called Speed Cubing or Speed Cuber on
Yeah, it was
Netflix.
speed cubing.
Yeah, there, yeah. So in that one, they kept on emphasizing emotional maturity. So is that something that you'd be able to comment on, like?
I definitely think emotional maturity is going to be different for each person. I know I used to not be emotionally mature, but now it's come more natural with, you know, age.
Okay, and so would that be like having a typical reaction to a typical situation? You know, like because like I've heard of that before, where
Each
and I'm
situation is different with each person, but I know, you know, now especially it'll depend on the individual, but with some people I'm able to tolerate, with others I'm just like, at this point I'm just no longer going to be tolerant of this, but I'll be nice about it.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just trying to think as far as like any advantages, because like honestly, a lot of what you're saying, it just sounds human to me. The only pattern that I keep on seeing though is it's introverted, and like part of being introverted means that you know your idea of a good time normally comes from inside. It's not normally from the outside, but sometimes it is. But what kind of overlap in those labels would you say as far as like introverts and being on the spectrum?
I would probably say I have both in I have similarities on both.
Hmm.
You're right about, you know, being on the inside for some things.
Right, for your entertainment, you know, like just your imagination, you know, could be about the future, could be all sorts of things. Well, that like part of the reasons why I'm so aware of it is it's one of the jumps I've taught myself to become an author, which is learning. Like before, I actually made a full decision to speak to myself in my own head in full sentences. Whereas before, because you know you're talking to yourself, right? So you don't need to finish your own sentence because you already know what you're basically saying in your inner monologue. But as I started writing more and wanting to do better stuff, I actually deliberately started thinking in full sentences, so I'd craft it out completely in a better way. So I don't know if that is something interesting for you or not, but
That is actually, and because you're on the topic of that, I know for things now going forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to start writing everything out.
and but there's you can use voice recognition software.
That's what I want to invest in, actually.
Yeah, you just get an app.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like you know it'll be like $4.
All right. That's not bad at all.
Right, right, exactly. So you know Google Translate does all sorts of great stuff too, but it's just not specific for that. But there you go. So yeah, that's some pretty exciting stuff. As far as school subjects go, I'm guessing you're going to give me the same answer, which is that being on the spectrum doesn't really predict somebody being good or bad at any particular school subject.
Norm, here's what I'll say to that.
Uh-huh.
My strong subjects, history was one of them.
Yeah.
Writing has gotten a lot better. I was weak in science and math.
Uh-huh.
There are people who are on the spectrum that are stronger in science and math.
Right. Okay. Okay. And are you familiar? Well, everybody's familiar with the term photographic memory, and
Yeah.
right, right. Okay. Now I have what's called an episodic memory. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. It's like inside my head. It's like a TiVo. I can play the whole damn thing back. Okay. So like, when I'm thinking about like, especially like important memories, like, I remember where I was in the room, where the other people were in the room, where the furniture was there, and it plays back and forth at will. So like, have you ever heard of anything like that? Does it sound familiar at all?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah. See, like that's and that's the thing that's really weird is that finding out that that is what I do, but that's not normal. That took a lot of investigation because like it just doesn't occur to you to go, it's like, hey, like how is my recollection fundamentally different from other people?
Exactly.
Right. And that's exactly the struggle that you've gone through as well, right? Because you're sitting there going like, okay, so people are saying I'm different. Like you explore the difference for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's part of why you're high functioning is because you invest in, playing the social game, I guess. It's like you have to, get out there and say like, all right, well, it's important. So we just get out there and it's funny because I just keep on coming back to how there aren't really that many differences at all. So
No.
that's fun to know.
Yep.
All right, Benjamin, this has been really amazing. Did you have any questions for me at all?
If I think of anything else, I'll reach out to you by message.
All right, sweet. This has been awesome having you.
All
And
right.
make sure that you end up hitting subscribe so I can keep on interviewing.
Oh yeah, no, I will. I
Yep,
think I'm already subscribed to your channel, but I'll go look again on YouTube. All right.
yep, all good. Yep. I just need to tell
All
the
right.
person in the camera too. So you in the camera, make sure that you hit subscribe as well. So YouTube pays for this. All right, thanks, Benjamin.
All right. Have a good day, Dan.
All right, you too.